Alright. I need to figure out what the YouTube link is. This one. We all set up. I think it. Okay, already? Go. Watching. Hello and welcome back. I hope you can hear us. We're back for the Weekly Woof this week. I am Thumper. My pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Zael, and my pronouns are he and him.
So we're back again this week after we had our lovely week with the sexual health workers at a anonymous sexual health clinic in London.
Yeah.
Can't really talk about that, but it was really fun.
Say the name.
And we can't say the clinic, no. Remember, we didn't get that permission.
Yeah,
so I don't know if anyone's watching. We've certainly got something saying 0 viewers. I don't know if anyone is watching, say hello. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry on. So we've got a lovely guest this week. She's a sister.
But a very special kind of sister.
Yeah, not a sister in my sister. A very special sister from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Yes, absolutely.
So, hello, Sudo.
Hi, Sudo.
As Counter must be off today. Anyway, so we're going to go on. We're going to introduce the lovely sister Mona Keys. Go transition. Hello.
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 Hi.
Welcome to the Weekly Woof. Hope you've been enjoying it already with all our normal technical difficulties before the show and our lovely chat. So how are you today?
I'm good. So, as you said, I'm Sister Mona Key. You can use whatever pronouns you like for me, as long as you're nice. Usually she, her, for when I'm being sister. And I'm one of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, based in Manchester. Well, the Manchester Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Manchester, UK.
Yes.
Just to
So
specify.
for those international people, yes, Manchester, UK. There's many Manchesters in the US. Not sure if there's any other Manchesters anywhere else, but we're the only one in the UK, I do believe.
Yep. So what is a Sister Perpetual Indulgence, and sort of how did you get involved with it? Because I don't think people really understand what sisterhood is and how to really get involved. So if you could just share some enlightenment Enlightenment on that.
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment. Oh, look at that.
That's a light.
We're getting all Christian up in here.
Absolutely. So the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are a worldwide order of queer nuns whose mission is to expiate stigmatic guilt and promulgate universal joy. I can talk about the history in a little bit later, but we generally do it as nuns, sometimes monks, and also a group of people that help us called guards or hench people. And we work with the LGBTQ plus communities in a similar way to how Christian nuns might serve their Christian communities. We serve the LGBTQ plus communities.
That's great. So, if anyone's out there is wondering, so how did you get involved in this? It seems quite a bizarre thing. It seems like something that you don't just walk across on the street. You sort of have to go for a bit of searching, it feels like.
Yes. So so I started my journey through to being a sister following the sad death of my friend Cy Hands, who was a previous Mr. International Rubber and one of the organisers of the Manchester Rubber Weekend, which is a scene that I'm involved with. And after his death, there was a memorial service, and there were people from all sorts of walks of life there to celebrate his life, including the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence from Manchester. They had worked with him doing photography and other works. They do the bingo at the Manchester Rubber Weekend, and sort of it struck a chord with me, and so I sort of made contact afterwards with some of the sisters and started my journey off from there.
Nice.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So what's sort of been a positive that you've had from joining the sisterhood? I don't know how long have you been part of it as well, just quickly?
So I've been a sister since 2018, I think it was. And I can talk a little bit about the process of becoming a sister, because that's kind of interesting. So the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence operate a little bit like Christian convents, and you ask to join an individual convent or house, as we call them, in different places, and you're an aspirant at that point. You aspire to join something. An aspirant, and that's usually, depending on where you're from, what the different convent likes to do, can range from just a quick sort of meeting with one of the sisters, or coming to one of their events to see what they're doing. So I sort of did that. I contacted Sister Bang Bangladesh, who's one of the Manchester sisters, and you should search for her. She's on all the social medias. She's our mistress of Mimi Media.
Who isn't on all socials anymore? It seems like everyone's on every single social media platform. There's also Recon. Does Recon count?
Well, it could be. I mean, she might be there too.
She might be there. the only one in like the full outfit. Was it? It's oh, I've forgotten what it's called. What's
Habit.
the
Habit.
habit? There you go.
So yeah, after becoming an aspirant, which isn't very long, you are accepted as a postulant, which is the first stage of being a sister, in the Manchester house, certainly. And that's where you get to start wearing a habit. The postulant one is very simple. It's a bit like a sack. And you get a little white tea towel to stick on your head as well. And so I did the first manifestation. That's what we call it when we go out looking like nuns. And I did that in March, probably 2018, that must have been, for a ceremony where one of the other sisters was taking her final vows as a sister. So that's where I started as a postulant. And then you do a few months as a postulant, go into different events with your with the senior sisters. And then once they agree, you get to have a ceremony where they give you your habit, a full habit, which looks like this. Where you've got this thing, which is a bandeau. You've got the top bit, which is the veil. When you become a novice, you have a white veil because you're innocent and pure.
Sure.
Really?
Then you have a wimple, which is the bit of fabric that covers your neck and face and whatever. Then you have a gamp, which is this bib type thing. It's spelt like gimp, but it's pronounced like
Gamp.
camp. Gamp.
Do you have a gimp around your neck? Is that what you're saying?
I do have a gimp around my neck. Who doesn't?
Every
Who
single
doesn't?
night.
Gimp around your neck.
Who doesn't want a gimp around their neck?
And you also get the rest of the habit, which is formal and black. So you have a tabard, which is called a scapula, which is a bit like an apron, and then you get a black top and skirt. So you get that as a novice, and then you're a novice for about a year and a day.
Exactly a year a day, or
it varies, but the tradition is a year and a day. And then again, if the fully professed sisters agree, you get to take your final vows, become fully professed, and you take your vows, and you get given a black coloured veil. And then you can do what you like with your veil. I mean, I'm wearing a grey veil because grey is my colour. I don't know if you can see it. It's grey. It's grey. I promise it is. And
sorry, me too. So my sorry, this is gonna go. We're gonna have a little bit of off-topicness here, touching the knee again. I started off being a grey pup, and sort of just ended up like progressing, and obviously bondage and stuff like that. Handkerchief code for bondage, and I would just keep collecting grey gear, don't I? And also mainly also sort of going into a bit of monochrome now. But yeah, I got a grey leather tie. I've got a grey t-shirt, so a black leather t-shirt with grey piping. I get all the grey. People are like, oh, why do you go for grey? It's such a dull colour. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's fine. Not everyone can be inventive with their colours. There's
What
always
are you
one.
doing that for?
Huh?
The mic's not there.
No.
So,
Well, no,
the mic's
my mic for Teams is here. My mic for the actual. I'm talking to Sister Monarchy here.
Okay. Anyway, we'll go back onto the topic at hand.
I actually have a question.
oh yeah.
So, what kind of events do the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence attend? Because that's always interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the sisters are known for attending Pride events as sort of like our main sort of calendar events. So the Manchester sisters certainly attend the Manchester Pride event, both the parade and the festival itself. And we also attend some of the more local, smaller prides. Let me take a drink a second.
Don't worry, we're plugging in our laptop. We forgot to plug in the laptop.
I'm sorry. I literally asked a question and then I left.
It just went bing, and it went.
I figured you could still hear me.
Yeah,
so we've also attended some of the smaller local prides, including Didsbury, which is one of the places just outside central Manchester, down towards the south, I think. Which was actually set up as a pride event by the local Church of England, as they had a congregant, a young woman, who sadly ended her own life, because she was trying to come to terms with both her religion and her sexuality. And the priest of the church felt very strongly that he didn't want ever for somebody to do that ever again, and actually from a sort of very sad story, created and set up Didsbury Pride, which has been running for a few years now, I went to the first one, wasn't able to make the second one, and then it's sort of all been sort of cancelled because of pandemic and things. But it was held at the church there in their sort of church gardens, a bit like a church fete, and was really well attended by both the sort of the Christian community and the LGBT plus community as well. So we try and support and attend the sort of smaller prides that need us, but we also do we do some events for the local fetish scene. So the sisters are sisters across the world, and I'll talk a lot about that later. Are often involved in running bingo events, where they raise lots of money for charity. And so with that tradition, we've done that for the Manchester Rubber Weekend and also the Manchester Leather Weekend as well, and raised thousands of pounds for various charities doing those sorts of events. And we also sort of try and mark events in the LGBT calendar as well. So things like World AIDS Day, we'll try and do or attend the vigil that gets set up for that. We hand out candles and take donations, sometimes at the same time, for the there's a little story behind that. We were told off for selling candles at once at the candlelit vigil at Manchester Pride one year, and we were just like, we're taking donations and we're giving out candles. It just happens to be at the same time, but we're not selling anything.
It's an advisory donation of £1. It's not selling. It's advisory £1.
So we also sort of do things like that. So I went with one of my sisters to the Trans Memorial at Sackville Gardens for Trans Day of Remembrance in November. Again, there was nobody really around because there's lockdown and it's hard to sort of get out and about. But I thought it was important to mark that occasion just by sort of being there. So we try and do things like that for some of the other days in the calendar, things like Trans Day of Visibility, Bisexual Visibility Day, all sorts really. And of course it's LGBT History Month as well in the UK. I know that's in October in the US, in case anybody's watching from the US getting very confused. It's Black History Month there.
Yeah, to swap over, don't we?
Yeah, because we have Black History Month in October.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason it's completely the opposite. So LGBT History Month for us here, but Black History Month.
I think I know the reason, and I hates me. I think the reason it was is because there was something about I think it was Article 20, Article, you know, the article.
Section 28.
Section 28. Section 28 was got sort of released or got stopped around about this time.
Okay.
But in America, it was National Coming Out Day, always around about October. So I think they sort of just went, oh, National Coming Out Day is in October. We're going to keep something in October. You can have it in February because then that's when we had this section 28.
Section 28. Yes.
I can't talk today. I've had so many numbers in my head today. Section 28 stopped. So that's why they're a bit muddled because it was UK focused on Section 28 and America focused on National Coming Out Day, and then we're also Black History Month, they end up just swapping over. I believe so, but someone could tell me I'm wrong. I know, I've been looking at numbers all day. You know, when you look at a screen, you've been at a screen and you see 1, 5, 5, 6, and I'm just all the numbers are going in my head. Just it's like what's it called, The Matrix. It's just like numbers just filtering in out of my eyes, and I'm trying to read through the lines. But yeah.
So you said that obviously the sisters are not just one group, and they don't just operate in Manchester. So can you tell us more about the other groups that operate? Like, are they all different groups that work separately, obviously, and you just connected in name, or do you have kind of a centralized network and you communicate with each other? And obviously, where are you located? Because obviously, it's not just England; it's also other places. So yeah.
So the
Yeah.
sisters, the sisters started in 1979 in San Francisco, and there was 3, sometimes 4, depending on who you talk to, gay guys that decided to put on some Sound of Music nuns habits at Easter in 1979, and they took a bit of a tour of the San Francisco city, including one of them carrying a fake machine gun for protection. Um, and they got such a good reaction from the public, who we now call the gathered faithful, and they decided, with a large group of their friends, to create the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which is a bit of a play on traditional Catholic orders of nuns. There are the Sisters of Mercy, the Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, the Sisters of Christ, lots of different sisters. So we felt they felt that Perpetual Indulgence really encapsulated what they wanted to do. So that was 1979 in San Francisco. It then sort of became a thing, and I think some of at least 1 or 2 of the friends that were there were actually from Australia, and the order then went to Australia, possibly Sydney. I can't remember exactly which city it was, but so sisters, orders of sisters happened in Australia, and something, if you look up Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, you'll see that a lot of the American ones, quite a few in the UK as well, but most of the American sisters wear drag makeup, usually with a white base. We call it as whiteface, and that was done by one of the original sisters in San Francisco because, one, it gets you photos taken. People like to take pictures of somebody that looks different, and that sort of clown type makeup lends to that. But it was also a way of disguising you. In 1979, it was the world of the Castro clone, and there was a big taboo between being drag and being sort of hypermasculine gay person, with sort of the white t-shirt and the blue jeans,
or the
Ah!
or the more like
feel called out.
motorcycle club sort of full leather, full
Yeah.
sort of big heavy jacket.
Okay, well,
big
you don't
boots.
need to diss me that much. Thank you very much.
Or even you
but-
had the skinhead, didn't you? Yeah, that sort of working class, hard
Yeah.
man, that really hyper masculine.
I mean, there's a reason. I was about to say there's a reason why that tank top is called a wife.
there is that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe that.
So drag, it was very taboo for somebody to be both a drag queen and one of the sort of the Castro clones. So never the two shall meet. So that makeup also served as a bit of a disguise for anybody that didn't want to be known as somebody that did drag versus somebody that wanted to sort of maintain their sort of normality within the gay scene. So, but the Australian sisters didn't do that, and it's very unusual for any of the Australian sisters to wear makeup. They wear sunglasses quite frequently because it's very, very bright and sunny in Australia. But
Unlike
usually
here.
unlike sunny Manchester, although it was quite sunny today.
No snow.
There was a little bit of snow, and it's very, very cold, but it was very bright.
Oh.
So the sisters in Australia. Then I think some of them took a trip up through to Europe, and then there were sisters in Germany and France, as well as the UK. In the UK, the sisters sprung up early on in places like London, but also Canterbury had some sisters, Nottingham, and where else? Oxford had some sisters very briefly. And of the early houses in the UK, the ones that are still around are Manchester, but also slightly older than us is the Edinburgh sisters up in Scotland. So both of us, both Manchester and Edinburgh, have been around since the later 90s, and then there's been houses that have been set up in Bristol. And then there's another mission that's just become a full house in Cardiff, the House of the Chiffon Borg, and there's also a mission in Glasgow. So they've been around for a few years, and they're sort of working their way to becoming a fully fledged house of sisters.
Someone just said "Woo Edinburgh." It's one of our Scottish pup friends have just gone "Woo Scotland for the win."
Absolutely, yeah. The sisters in Edinburgh have just replying. So they've been around. There's a good number of sisters there, and there's also sisters in Canada, and there's houses in most of the major cities in the US. We also have a few sisters in Poland, who are.
I'm Polish. Yeah, I'm Polish.
So there is Sister Mary Reed. I think I can't remember exactly where she's from. I don't want to just say Warsaw because I don't think it's Warsaw. But obviously she's doing a lot of work there, and certainly with Duda being the president of Poland, and some of the anti-LGBT stuff that's happening there. Manchester certainly did. I attended a couple of protests outside the Polish consulate, because the Polish consulate in Manchester is just outside of the gay village. So we went there just before the general election a year or so ago, and did a bit of an exorcism to sort of help.
Did you actually do like a sort of fake exorcism?
Yes, well, we sprinkled glitter, and that's.
Excuse me, why are you calling it fake? It was obviously a very serious,
sprinkling glitter ceremony. Where's the party poppers? You know, the things that you twist and go boo, and then all the ribbons come out.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely. Perfect. And there was another protest earlier in the summer, I think, because I think there was another election. There was another election.
Yeah,
presidential.
Oh my god, it was presidential this summer. Yeah. I voted. I didn't win. Well, our side didn't win. It's fine.
So we did that, and then I think we draped. Apparently, a Polish tradition of protest is to drape flags around statues.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so we went to the protesters kind of did a bit of a tour around Manchester, and then they ended up at Sackville Gardens, which does have a little statue of Alan Turing.
Oh.
And they draped a rainbow flag around Alan because he was somebody that they could find. But he's also like a sort of a historical gay figure anyway. So it was done very respectfully, and rather than perhaps what they might have wanted to do with a statue that might have
because you usually drape. It's like you close the statues that you kind of want to represent positively, but then you hide the statues that you want to represent negatively.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's different ones that you can do.
So yeah, they did a very nice draping because they recognised that Alan Turing is a good figure. So where was I saying? What was I saying? Sisters, there's sisters in Romania as well. I think there's a small house of sisters in Romania. But yes, so we're kind of a worldwide order, but we're
oh god,
the light's gone out.
Into darkness. There's an exorcism needed.
I just remember the whole talk about the black and white makeup and Romania reminded me of. Have you ever watched Conjuring? Oh
no. But if you search for sister like nuns, you get lots of the scary nun pictures that happen on Google.
Yeah. There's a nun demon in The Conjuring that reminded me of it.
Yeah. we can be a bit scared. I mean, some real life Catholic sisters can be a little bit scary. If you speak to any Irish person that went to a Catholic school, they'll have stories of scary nuns. So, but yes.
So just a quick thing is that we have got people in the audience. We can't see how many people have joined. We have a glitch in the system today. For some
As
reason,
always.
as always, we have a glitch. We have to have a glitch.
We thought everything was set up and everything was fine for once, and then we just turned it on, and yeah.
Can't see it. We can't see who's in, but we can still see your comments. So if you can't speak today. If you do have any questions for Sister Mona, please put them in the chat and we can ask them. So one of the things is we've been talking about different sisters all over the world. I was going to say covens, but that's witches. Totally different thing.
I don't know.
No, it's
We're pretty similar sometimes.
covens with a T is Christian.
Coven, not
Yeah.
coven. Coven.
And coven is witches.
Yes. I was going to say coven, not covent. So that's not what I'm saying. Something else now. Oh God, I should stop. So obviously we talked about different groups all over the world, and there's different ones in the UK. So historically, what has the Manchester Coven done? So you've said they started about 1990, and you've done a lot of stuff recently with Pride and international days and national days. But what else has been going on in the last 30 years? 30.
So we're about 23, 24.
Four.
That's roughly how old we are. And we have sort of gone from being sort of fairly active to then quite quiet, to where sort of only one or two sisters were around, and then we're sort of growing up again, where there's around 10 of us now in total, a mixture of the fully professed sisters to some novices and a postulant. We do lots of sort of individual things, so nothing really sort of huge, but we do a lot of charity work for some of the local LGBT charities in Manchester. So there's the George House Trust that does lots of work for people with HIV. There's the LGBT Foundation as well, which is a Manchester-based charity in Manchester that works with the LGBT community. And then there's also a trans charity called Sparkle that run the Sparkle Weekend every year in Manchester, and some of our sisters who also identify as trans people outside of being sisters are that go to that both as nuns and also in their own sort of capacities as trans people. So yeah, we do lots of sort of small sort of charity events. Something that we want to do more of this year, and hopefully if we do come out of lockdown sort of anytime soon, is working more with the local sex work charities. So there's a charity called MASH, which is Manchester Action on Street Health, which works with female sex workers in Manchester. And then there's also the Men's Room, which does the same sorts of things, but for the male sex work. I want to say industry, but side of
I'd probably say industry, because technically, at the end of the day, sex work is work, and it's sort of an industry. It depends on what sort of work it is. Obviously, there's some stuff that is safer and is more easily done, and actually more within the laws of our
More
code.
kind of acceptable from a law standpoint.
While there are some things that are considered against the law and maybe sort of more risky, even though it is still a job and is still
Unpoliced and
that's something that we try to do, is try to educate about sex work, and we've talked recently about trying to make sex work less unlawful in certain aspects, and because actually talking about it,
because that's the whole issue, is the reason why it's so unlawful is because there's so much stigma around it. And you know, you do see that in countries that are a little bit more liberal with sex work, like I think Germany, Netherlands, where it's actually legal, there is also less crime on sex workers because everything there is policed. People are not doing it, just privately somewhere where it might be unsafe. There are actual legal brothels set up, which means that this can be also be policed by the government and make sure that the standards are up to par hygienically and all of that. So it is an important thing, I think, to kind of realize that not the answer to certain things is not always to ban them, because by banning them you make them more unsafe for people who might not have a choice or might just, some people choose that lifestyle, some people don't choose that lifestyle, and it's important to make that lifestyle safe for everyone.
Absolutely. And I've been trying to help highlight the dangers of criminalizing sex work, which has been proposed recently in the House of Commons, where they're sort of looking at bringing in laws similar to some of the Scandinavian countries. They call it the Nordic model, where they ban the sale of sex. So you can't buy sex. It's illegal to buy sex in those countries, and it's kind of been proven that makes it less safe because it just makes it more underground, and so sex workers find it harder to report when they've been attacked or abused, and it makes it harder for sex workers to insist on condom use and all sorts of things, which it just makes it not as safe. And the sex workers are pleading that they don't want this to go through, and there absolutely are people that are abused and trafficked and exploited in the sex work industry, and those people do need to be helped in ways that the government, charities, people can do, but there are also people that do it willingly and enjoy it, and we have to work on making it sure it becomes safer for everybody, and there are routes out when you want to get out, and there are ways of making it safe. So as you said, criminalizing things doesn't always make things go away, and certainly the idea that sex work might go away is just a really silly thing, because if you talk to anybody knows that the oldest profession is sex work, and that's not going to go away. It's been illegal in various ways across history, and it still exists in the modern age. So it's never gone away, and it never will go away. We have to accept that and work with sex workers and listen to them and what they need and say and want, and use that as a basis. We should always speak to the people that are affected in the main with any laws and things that affect them. You can't have any effective law that doesn't include the people that you're making laws around, and that's something that the sisters feel very strongly about, which is why we want to get more involved with the Manchester sex work charities.
We've found, especially within the kink fetish scene as well, even though it's not unlawful against the law, it's very taboo. And obviously, the more taboo the subject, the more risk of the activities happening within that area becoming unsafe and unconsensual. You see, with even we talk about in very low aspects, we talk about Poland as well. We look at Poland and look at their LGBTQ rights going down. We're seeing an increase in HIV and STI cases skyrocketing in that country and other countries which don't legalize gay marriage and don't talk about LGBTQ rights and sexual health for homosexuals. that also it causes an increase in HIV, causes an increase of sexually transmitted diseases, which then is making a detriment to everyone because because then obviously that does pass into people who are straight as well. And it does actually, even though we're talking about these very distinct communities and saying, oh, well, this community needs to have more rights and we need to make sure that we legalize it and make it less taboo. We're doing that because we're trying to not just better them, and we are trying to better them and make sure that they feel safe, but also for the betterment of everyone else, because if they feel safe and they've got the right care and they've got everything that they need, then everyone else is going to be better for it. It's equity. If we are using equity properly, then everyone's going to be equally supported, equally healthy, equally good, equally happy. So then everyone else is happy because it's like infectious. Happiness is infectious. That was very cheesy. I apologise for that, but it is that sort of aspect where we're saying we're bettering one community to better them and make them feel better, but it'll also have a wider impact that you don't always necessarily would see from having this conversation. Where you actually look at larger statistics.
And I'm going to break your kumbaya moment now. Thank you.
Kumbaya.
Vomiting rainbows. No, but I agree, and like you mentioned before, I think the important thing to understand is that certain people, and obviously right now with the government being quite leaning and very, it's always been historically a little bit anti sexual freedom and the kind of sexual expression and kink and fetish. I feel like people have to get over that and understand that ideally, if you accept that people will have sex, sorry, this is always going to happen, and some people will pay to have sex with other people. That's always going to happen. You're not going to change that. But as you said, criminalizing something will have an adverse effect because you can't control it. And the whole idea that, we have to criminalize sex work, we have to criminalize people who make a living out of it because there is trafficking or there is, abuse in that community. But if you made it legal and you made a set of rules and you had people actually making sure that those rules were abided by, then it would be less of an opportunity for people to abuse that system and abuse people who are vulnerable in that system. And the more you push those people down into the darkness and, as you said, underground, the more at risk they are. The more at risk they are of being exploited and, as you said, and not being able to speak up for themselves and not being able to say when they were abused or have problems with their health because if it's taboo, then they will be breaking the law by saying that they have done something. This thing is really
the preaching here today. It's coming from all sides today.
I'm just saying,
We've got preaching, preach. Hallelujah!
I think that the sisters are doing a very important work here, and I think that a lot of other groups, especially in the kink and fetish community, because we are the. I know I'm preaching a little bit, but because we are.
Fine, I'm just not used to it. I'm normally the one who's been preaching, but I don't know what's happened. Thank you, Sister Mona. You've sort of instilled some.
No, but I think it's important, especially in the kink and fetish community, because we. The kink and fetish community, especially the leather community, has always been at the forefront of LGBT rights, and they were always represented at Pride. So it would be nice to see from certain groups within the community a little bit more incentive and kind of representation, especially what happened with HIV testing week. It's such a simple thing to promote, and it's sometimes a little bit discouraging to see people who have the platform to promote it, to do something about it, not do anything about it, because there isn't answer to because it's just because they haven't.
I think Kitty Zael's come out today.
I have I have some pet peeves, and one of my pet peeves is if you're in a position and one of your manifestos is you are going to advocate for your community and you're going to make sure that your community is heard, then one of the biggest issues, which is making sure that everyone is safe in your community, or making sure that everyone is healthy in your community, should be at the forefront, and you should be advocating for it. And some people aren't doing this when they should be. And I mean, that's what Animagi is about, and that's what this is a Perpetual Indulgence are about. In the end, is kind of making sure that our voices are heard from people who really are just. Hey, I'm done. Thank you.
You remember?
I've just seen that one of my sisters from Manchester, Polly Amorosa, Sister Polly.
Hello.
Say hello. So just wanted to give a shout out to her.
Yeah.
'Cause she's signed in, she's found us online. So well done and hello. I'm glad you've been enjoying it.
I don't know how she found the Facebook. That's the
that's the one that we never get found on.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well done.
She has magic powers. We can always find a way.
Either way, that's it for my rant. Thank you very much. You always have rants on yours, so I deserve a rant from time.
Okay, we'll go back to our normal scheduling.
Yes.
So we're going to go back. Don't mind. We'll go back to what the topic was about: the history of Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Well, it's history and work, so I think we covered that.
So one of the things that I read up and we chatted about beforehand, there's a woof, there's a whack. Where's a woof, there's a whack. I love
exactly.
it. Sorry. I was reading the comments and just went, oh, I like that.
We always love a good pun.
We love a good pun.
We might be stealing it for advertisements.
Yes,
we'll give credit.
We'll steal it. Sorry. We love stealing stuff, consensually and safely.
You're not playing onto my stereotype. I don't need to be called a thief just because I'm Polish.
How dare you accuse me of that? So we'll go back onto the topic again. So we were talking earlier about something the Manchester sisters have done in the past. And one of the things was Polari and the Christian Bible.
Oh yes. So for those of the viewers that don't know, Polari is a slang dialect language type construction that was used by the gay community and some other communities in the past to communicate in a coded way to help avoid suspicion and to sort of use a code that sort of nobody else necessarily knew, and it's called Polari. It's a mix of sort of rhyming slang and words that are taken and rejigged slightly, and we use it, the Edinburgh sisters use it quite a lot, and we use it as well in some of our ceremonies. One of the calls that we say during one of our ceremonies is "How bona tovada your dolly old eek."
How it's nice to see your pretty old face.
Indeed. And then people reply to bona uvada.
But it's nice to see you too.
To see you nice. So we use Polari a little bit in our rituals, and one of the sisters that's now on nun time, which is a term we use for sisters that are no longer active, systematic debauchery. She translated the Bible. I think she set up a computer program to change the Bible into Polari. I think she's also tried to do the Quran as well, so there is a Polari version of the Bible somewhere. I don't know if it was done in print or anything, or if it was just electronic, but absolutely there is Polari. Polari is definitely a part of our the sisters and sort of wider gay community. I'm reading a book at the moment called Fabulosa, which is about the history. Are you reading it as well?
Don't get them too excited. They get very excitable about Polari.
My
and
favourite
that
thing.
and the cover of that actually has one of the sisters
It
from London, I
does.
think. Yes. I can't remember which one it is. I'm sure there's a note. I was chatting to some of the older sisters. I'm on a Facebook chat group with some of the older sisters, some of the original sisters from London and Nottingham. In fact, Dominis. Oh, here we go. Sister Polly has sent a link, the polaribible.org. So there we go. I'm glad. So I feel like I've got my own assistant. Thanks,
Yeah.
Polly.
We have you every week. Is that okay? I'm just about going to paste it in the chat for everyone to look at. So go on to all channels. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Polly.
Thanks, Polly.
Sister Belladonna de Gloria Marengo.
Was that the one on the on the cover for the
Oh,
Fabulosa?
okay, yeah. That could be.
That
the
makes
person on the
sense. I was
cover.
like, what's that name for?
So yeah, and there's also somebody that you might have come across is somebody called Dominic Davies, and he is a sex therapist. I think he lives in Brighton now, and he does lots of workshops and educational talks on sex and psychology of it. He was actually one of the Nottingham sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. He was Mother Dominatrix of the Divine Tongue.
Any reasons?
Well, one, his name is Dominic.
Yeah.
Dominatrix, fits very well with that. But he may or may not be part of the kink scene as well in certain some forms or not. And so him and another sister, Sister Ophelia, were some of the sisters that helped the Manchester House set up in the later 90s. So there's lots of connections with sisters. And it's funny sort of meeting people and then finding out later on that they were a sister, and you're like, I never knew this, and now I'm a sister, and it's sort of
We're all sisters.
we're all sisters.
Breaks into Sister Act.
Absolutely. And actually I was really lucky to be able to go to the 40th anniversary celebration in 2019 in San Francisco. So every 10-year anniversary they hold a big giant event where sisters from across the world come together, and I was one of the only sisters from, well, I was the only sister. I was a novice at the time that went from the UK to San Francisco, and there were two of the hench people from the Edinburgh House that went as well. But it was a really wonderful event in San Francisco. So I hope to do another one of those. They do them yearly, but they do a big thing for the big anniversaries.
I guess it's another 8 years to the 50th.
Another 8 years to the 50th, and I'm hoping that some of the founder members will still be around for that. There's still 3 of them alive. There's Sister, well, she's not Sister Missionary Position anymore, but she was Sister Missionary Position originally. Then she's now Sister So Am I Deluxe. Then there was Sister Vicious Power Hungry Bitch.
Love it.
She's now Sister Vishnu, or Mother Vishnu.
Not got the ring to it, unfortunately. It's not got the ring to it.
No. Well, somebody told her that she was a vicious, power-hungry bitch, and the next meeting that they had, that's what she decided her new name was.
Like that. Sounds like me.
Then there was Sister Hysterictoria, and she's still alive. I think she lives in New York now. And sadly, the Reverend Mother the Abyss, she sadly died of AIDS, I think, alongside another sister called Sister Florence Nightmare, RN, who was a nurse, and sadly died actually one day before I was born. And I wonder whether or not I'm some sort of reincarnation, maybe.
I do like that.
very strange that it was exactly the day before.
So I guess it was off Florence Nightingale, and then just went Florence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Florence Nightingale RN because she was a nurse and Florence Nightingale was a nurse, and we often have a bit of puns on our names. Not all the time, but sometimes we do.
And another queer icon, if I'm right. Uh, some people say Florence Nightingale. Some people say Florence Nightingale may have been a bisexual or lesbian.
Okay.
Because of the way that she wrote to some of her female friends.
Well,
Like she acted around men.
apparently she had a female companion, which you know what that was back in those days. Female companions living in the same house, you know, best friends. Share the same bed.
Indeed. Yes. Hmm.
So there is some debate on that one, but yeah.
So is well, can you tell us more about your name then? Is this like a specific? Did you just choose it for fun, or
Did it moan?
Yeah.
I guess it was moan.
So it's Sister Mona Key, and I'm from the UK, and we have a very important head of state, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions on whether or not my name's a pun or not.
Give me a second. I'll try and work it. I'll work it out tomorrow. I'll wake up and go, "Oh, I got it." I get the.
I'll be sitting at the table in the evening, and I'll just hear Thumper. Oh, so that's what it was. That's what it was. I'm like, okay, great.
I'm a bit slow sometimes.
I can tell you some of the other sisters' names in the Manchester house to see if that sort of maybe helps or doesn't. But we have got Sister Martini Bianca, anytime, any place, anywhere.
Is that after Bianca off Drag Race? I guess.
No,
Oh.
no, this is very much predated that.
Oh.
Martini Bianca is a drink. Is a type of martini, type of spirit.
Look at the alcoholic
and the-
nodding.
I just know my liquor, and I don't drink vodka Coke all the time.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong. Nothing
Thank
wrong.
you. Thank you.
But the tagline for the advert for Martini Bianca was "Anytime, any place, anywhere." And you should look up the advert because it's hilarious. It involves somebody on roller skates. We've also got Sister Bang Bangladesh. He's just said it's an 80s advert. It's absolutely an 80s advert. You need to look it up because it's hilarious. We've got Sister Polyamorosa of the Blessed Mercy Baku and
Hello.
Bona Aris. That's her full title, don't you know? That's got some Polari and some French in there. We've got Sister Rolling Me Over on the Hay. We've got.
Is that you, Zael?
This is my alter ego.
We've got Sister Judy DeRider, Sister Boutrice Leatherbottom. Couldn't possibly tell you why she's called that. We've got myself, Sister Mona Key. We've got novice Sister Lavinda Tantrum.
That's me.
Tantrum.
We've got another Sister Benja Over Mani. And we've got Postulant Vita Immaculata.
Oh. So if you were going to give us, I'm going to say this, I don't know if this is the right thing to say. If you were going to give us, of the hour and a bit you've met us, what would you name us to? If you were going to name us, what would you give us as names?
Oh, God.
Oh, I don't know about that. And anyway, being choosing a sister name is very personal. You have to choose. Well, some people get named, but generally you choose your own name. So you'd have to come up with something fabulous to come up with. It can be a pun. It doesn't have to be. There was a Sister Boom Boom. There was there's a Sister Baronce Nose. Who's a bit of a bear. There's what else? Who else is there? There's a Sister Roma, the most photographed nun in the world. She's one of the originals from San Francisco. Well, she joined a little bit after, but has been still active and the most photographed nun in the world for a little while now. Basically, she's old.
She's had the time to get the most photographed title.
Yes, yeah. Well, she just said it one day and it was true. Because that's what we do. We say things and they become true.
Oh, that's me all the
Miracles.
time. We believe
are
in miracles. He sex. Sorry, I've got that song in my head now.
Yeah, one. So, because I was just wondering with the whole kind of group. You say that you obviously go to San Francisco because they have the annual meeting. Is there kind of other meetings that you can go? You know, do for example the UK nuns have some sort of annual UK meetups and stuff like this? Or is it just a bit more online communication more than anything?
So individual houses are kind of all independent, and there's a few guidelines that we stick to call ourselves Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, but we are effectively independent, different groups. Some of us travel around. I went down to Cardiff for their ceremony, which made their convent a full-fledged convent, because there's a process for houses becoming fully fledged, just as there are for individual sisters becoming fully fledged. And there's a little bit of a ceremony when a convent becomes a fully fledged house. So I went down along with some of my other sisters. Then we will do that for other places, and as Polly's just said, we are working on doing something to sort of help celebrate the history of sisters in the UK, because I think we've been going for nearly 30 or so years, possibly even longer, in terms of having sisters in the UK. It would be nice to sort of do something to sort of celebrate that and bring together some of the sisters that haven't been sisters for a long time, that might actually dig out a habit and stick one on and do something. But if and when that happens, we'll certainly let you know. But yeah, there's the annual event isn't always in America. There's been one in Berlin. There was meant to be one in Paris last year. But sadly, obviously, everything got cancelled. There's been one in Australia, I think, and then they sort of often spread around the US. But yeah, there is a sort of annual get together somewhere in the world every year, and maybe one day we'll have it in the UK.
Hey.
Hopefully one day. And can we be invited as hench? Is that all right? Can we be invited?
Absolutely. If people want to come along, you'll be more than welcome.
I'll be a great hench.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You'll be seeing people's waistcoats as you are today. You're seeing the habit soon. You'll be like going, I want that. You just steal everything, don't you?
You don't steal a nun's habit. That's just
like you don't steal someone's meal cap, isn't it? You don't steal someo's meal cap.
No, definitely not.
Don't.
My veil is pinned very well securely to my head.
Take the head with you.
Sometimes there's a bit of blood. You never know.
Oh God! Ooh. We don't want to lift that up then.
No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna tell you.
Go on, do it.
No, it's fine.
Go on, do
No,
it.
that's okay. I think it's time for our taboo game now.
You've got to get the blindfold.
Oh, where is it?
Oh, we don't know. You were supposed to look for it earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Well, while you go look for the blindfold, we'll see if anyone else has got any questions online.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I'm going to mute your mic so you don't go anything else. It sometimes slips, dear. What slips? What the
veil? Sometimes the veils go a little bit wonky. Depends if the wind's been blowing, but occasionally our veil goes akimbo.
Fair enough. We're just going to have a lovely conversation while someone finds out where where his lovely blindfold is gone. So is there any other sort of history that you think that's quite important that has probably gone under the radar in a few years. I know a lot of stuff's coming up nowadays. I just love the comment that's just come up. That a lot of stuff's starting to come up and starting to resurface. Is there anything that you think needs a bit more of a light shone on it?
Well, I think, I mean, somebody that's really close to the Manchester sisters is Alan Turing, who was alongside the Polish. I will mention them because a man called Marian, can't remember the last name, but the Polish were actually the ones that had cracked the Enigma code first, certainly before it became slightly more complex and complicated. And then Alan Turing and his team obviously then worked on creating a machine to crack and break the Enigma code, which saved millions of lives across Europe and in the UK. And sadly, his his reward was a conviction for indecent behaviour under the sort of sodomy laws, and chose to have a chemical castration treatment, and not so long after that sadly died, either through suicide or by accidental poisoning. It's sort of slightly up for debate what happened there.
If you read conspiracy theories, that
he was found with an apple, half-eaten apple, which apparently was common. He would frequently half eat an apple before going to bed, and there is evidence that he was doing some sort of experiments with cyanide. So there's a bit of conspiracy and possible evidence that suggests it could have just been an accident, or that it was a poisoning, or it was suicide. But I think certainly his contribution to history is something that's really important, really should be highlighted, and thankfully is a little bit, with the £50 note now has Alan Turing on it. So a nod to our Alan, who we consider to be one of our saints, and I think that he should definitely be mentioned and remembered. And there's a little statue of him in Sackville Gardens in Manchester, which is where we do a lot of our ceremonies.
Because also people say that the Apple logo is a nod to Alan Turing.
They do, but apparently the founder of Apple said that would be lovely if it was, but it wasn't. But it certainly
we would say it is.
Would be lovely.
Remember earlier, if we say it is, it's true.
If someone said that, I would be like, yeah, totally, that's what I meant.
Oh, absolutely.
And then start saying yes, it was. It was actually my intention.
But remember, if we say it, it's true.
True. Miracles happen.
Also, I've been told that sometimes your veil disappears or sort of goes over your face when you're on your knees. Is that so? That often happens.
I couldn't possibly comment.
That was the lovely comment from Polyamorous. I mean, Polyamorosa. Now, sorry, I'm just going to give Amorosa. Now, is that? I guess that means love.
Amorosa does mean love.
So poly love, and is that right? So poly love. If I was trying to translate.
Maybe.
Okay, I want to try and translate it because I love plowing. I love translation stuff. It's just a habit, man. Anyway, so we're
just a play on.
Yeah, I think that was all a play on polyamorous. That's what I first thought. Then I saw amorosa, and a lot of Polari words have osa on the end of at the end of the phrase. It's fabulosa and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, sorry, I'm going to get go geeking about Polari for about an hour. So we're going to go on to our game. So we're going to do a lovely transition, and we're all going to move about. Woo! I'm going to do that. So we're going to go on to a game.
Oh, no, I was just adjusting my hair. I wasn't doing anything.
Well, to be honest,
today we're going on a budget and we're having a sock because I couldn't find a blindfold.
Sometimes the socks are quite handy.
Oh,
It's honest. Someone always taught me is that always, like when you're tying someone up, there's always something you can have at hand. You don't need rope to tie someone up.
Okay, it's holding. My eyes are in my skull right now, but it's holding.
Amazing. So we're going to play a game of Taboo. I'm going to find my timer that I've forgotten to pop up. And we're going to do a lovely transition again. All the waves. That's us again. And then we're going to transition back to where I've got the timer, which I've forgotten to put on again.
So we get the words. We'll see the words, and then we have to try and get Zael to say them.
Yeah. So we'll show you some words, and you've got to try and guess what the words are saying. You're going to have about 3 minutes. So I've got 3 minutes on time, and I can't be asked to fiddle with the timer. And
That sounds good.
And they're questions all around different subjects. Are you ready?
Well, around LGBT and stuff.
Is there, yeah. I just randomly put some words on a sheet just to confuse you. Are you ready? And go.
Oh
Don't.
god.
Okay, what's the opposite of brother?
Sorry.
What's the opposite of brother?
Sister.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, something you hit people with.
A stick.
But you can also make a boat maneuver with it.
Paddle.
Yep.
Yes.
I spelled that wrong.
What do you put on your penis to keep
Condom.
it safe? Yep. Oh, a pill you can take every day to stop you getting
Prep.
HIV.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, it's the test you take to learn how to ride a motorbike.
Driving test.
No, it's another type of accident, something else. But
Sorry, I can't hear.
okay, never mind.
Keep going. Keep going.
It's something you do to a boy's private bits that they like, but sometimes they don't like it.
Masturbation.
Something that I like doing to people.
Edging.
No. When you hit
Sometimes it's not
something.
very nice. You might
Oh, CT.
Yep.
Yeah, we go. Ooh. If you do lots of sinning and enjoy it a lot, what might that be?
Enjoy singing.
Sinning.
Sinning.
Oh, sinning.
Doing something fun. When
You're
you,
sex positive.
Yes, you are, but
Sisters of what?
Oh, perpetual indulgence. You indulge. You indulge.
Yep.
oh, you do it with your mouth, dear.
Something that Sister Mona does on her knees.
Oh, blowjob.
Sorry, I had to chip in on that one.
Somebody that doesn't like to smush their body up against another body.
Asexual.
Yep.
Yes. Somebody that's not a sub.
Dumb.
Yep.
Oh, somebody that doesn't like anal sex.
A side.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's it.
We did it! Woo!
We did it.
God,
Woo!
I'm so good at taboo.
Well done. Woo! I'm going to transition back to us. I don't know how. We're gonna do a quick wave back to us. Woo!
we're doing this.
I know we're doing. So obviously that's going to be unfortunately the end of the show. I don't know really where the time's gone. It seems to have gone really quickly, and we've talked about quite a lot of subjects. So thank you, Sister Mona.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on. We'd love to have you on. And when I finally go to Manchester after this dreadful lockdown, I'd love to come and see all the sisters up in Manchester. I haven't actually met a sister yet, so I'd love to meet you.
Oh, well, we can pop your cherry, dear.
Ooh! I love it when people pop my cherry.
Well, sadly, all the sisters are a little bit away from us because the closest one is in Bristol.
Bristol's not too far away.
The 1.5 hour train ride.
Yeah, well, we'll find a way. We'll get a sister to pop my cherry at some point.
The cherry was popped long.
So we're going to say Bona Savada. All. Thank you for having us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm talking, dear. Thank you to Club F.O.D. Thank you, Zael, for having us. thank you to Animagi, the group that organises this and make this run. If you want to follow them, it is at Animagi CIC. Sister Mona, how do people find the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and how do they find you?
Oh, good. So for me, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Yoda_13. Don't ask me why, but that's become my sort of Sister Mona account. You can look up the sisters in Manchester by going to manchestersisters.org, and you can search for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and you'll find sisters from across the world.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that have been watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed. I hope there has been people watching. We don't know today. Our count's been going on, but thank you very much. I'm going to copy the link.
Yes.
For the Sisters of Manchester.
And one last thing. Obviously, well, I forgot to put it on social media. However, last week was HIV testing week, and if you haven't gotten yourself tested, all the information about that is on our site. We are also doing questions every single week, and you can win 25% off of our store, and some other little good discounts that you can
discount off Thick Apparel, who's actually also a Manchester-run King Fetish clothing store run by a trans member of our community. So it really support local LGBTQ+ groups and businesses.
So the only thing that you have to do, there are history questions about our community. So the only thing that you have to do is follow us on at Animagi CIC
and follow at Thick Apparel.
Yes.
Thick Pup Apparel? You'll see it on our Twitter.
Yeah, it's all there, and answer one of the questions to get into the lottery. And we're doing stuff all the way through LGBTQ+ History Month. So if you want to learn anything and see what we do, just follow us on our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And on Facebook, I think
that's been our longest outro we've ever done.
Well, because we're doing a lot of stuff.
Doing so much. God, I don't know how. We maybe need to do more. Anyway, thank you so much all for joining us tonight. Thank you again, Sister Mona, for joining us. And we hope to join you. We won't be here next week, unfortunately, but we'll be here the week after. We're going to go for 2 weekly now, just because how busy our schedule's getting. So hope you enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
We'll see if we can transition.